the TLDR first. The side-by-side use of an assistant in a document or in a code stream, that is much closer to the feeling of having a smart collaborator over your shoulder.
On everybody, it is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, and you are watching the Daily AI Show live. Today, we're diving into ChatGPT Canvas, the latest innovation from OpenAI that's got everybody talking. With me today, I have Andy, Jyunmi, and Karl, and I'm Beth. So let's talk Canvas.
Okay, let's talk Canvas. What was everybody's first impression? You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I enjoyed using it. It was a nice new feature to try out. But my first impressions were, how do I get into this, right? How do I get into Canvas? Because it's not a button. It's not an automatic thing. It is an automatic thing. It'll be triggered based on how you how are you going to get into the workspace, the visual workspace as they talk about it. And so I literally had to ask ChatGPT. It's like, okay, explain to me what Canvas is. How do I use it? What's the trigger, right? And it just gave me the standard stuff of like, oh, hey, you just need to talk about how you want to start a blog post or edit code or anything like that. And so I found that a little disconcerting because I was like, wait a minute. I already need to know these kinds of things to get into it. So maybe that's just me trying to go in with as unbiased as possible, with no knowledge whatsoever. So after prompting ChatGPT to give me a little more information, I went ahead and just like, okay, create a blog post. And so then it goes into the split screen kind of situation. And I think what we've seen from a lot of tools is, hey, a lot of tools that we're seeing is you get your sidebar, it continues the conversation, and then you get your workspace that you're in, right? We've seen this in Cursor. We've seen this in Replit. It seems to be the standard UI layout. So nothing new there. I will admit, it took me a hot second before I realized I could click on the existing text of the blog that initially created and edit directly. It took me a second because I'm just so used to, write something new or create something in addition to, and then it would add to it. But me actually going in there like a Word document and make edits to the actual text in there, that's the new fun part. Pros and cons, or initial pros and cons. I like the fact that you can go ahead and start whatever your document is and go in there and make edits where you can actually change the text to what you want it to be. I think there's probably going to be a little bit of a learning curve in terms of if you're used to using ChatGPT, you have to get over that little bump in the road to get to the understanding now that it's got that WYSIWYG capabilities. Because when I was trying to apply edits, I was just trying to give it natural language, right? Make this. I want to see this kind of thing. And it didn't quite understand what I was trying to ask for. It wasn't quite there in saying, if I wasn't being more specific, it didn't make the kinds of changes I was looking for. But the key thing was to use the word edit. As soon as I started using the word edit, then it started making changes. So yeah, a little a little bit of a speed bump there, but I figured it out. But essentially, I primarily used Canvas, or in my testing anyways, primarily used it as a Word document, right? Something I could edit, something I could add to, looking to make changes, those kinds of things. Formatting was possible. I had to be a little more specific on what kind of formatting to use, specifically say use markdown title, header, those kinds of things. If you go in and edit a section, they do have some basic formatting tools already there. Bolding, you can change the header, and you can edit or ask questions directly to that section that you're editing, to ask questions to ChatGPT. So all of those direct conveniences there, and the fact that you can directly edit the text that you're working with. Great stuff. I did run into issues with trying to add certain types of things like links to the document and direct it to place it in certain places, right? So I went ahead and I created a blog based off of one of our episodes. I had a transcript of yesterday's show, and I was like, okay, use this transcript to create a blog about its topics, right? So I identify the topics, break it down into paragraphs, sections, things like that. And that all worked out fabulously. That was easy. Then I wanted to get fancy with it and add the links back to that same video with the timestamps, because I had the transcript with the timestamps. So whatever section that the blog was in, I was trying to create a link essentially back to the video, because I thought that would be convenient if someone wants to actually listen to the discussion of the video. Oh, hey, we can just click here. It was able to do that, but I had a hard time telling it, or for it to respond to my request to edit it to move the link wherever I wanted in the paragraph, right? I was saying put it under the section title, or put it under the section header, put it at the bottom of the paragraph, make a new paragraph with it. And so I don't know if this is because of a token limit or context window limit or whatnot, but there you will run into some confusion point where the ChatGPT, the normal ChatGPT side of the Canvas interface will get you, will respond as, "Yep, I did it," and then there's no editing that's going involved in the workspace part. Even if you use the workspace to make requests of that particular edit of that section. So for me, trying to approach it from a I know nothing kind of situation, or without any information, or at least trying to, I did run into what I think would be some common hurdles with it. So do I think it is necessarily ready for prime time? Probably not. But they just released the feature, and I think it's common now to release all features in beta, even though they say, "Oh yeah, this is not preview," but we'll see.
Absolutely. Andy, do you have what are your thoughts? Did you have a chance to
Yes, I did, and so I have some thoughts. Let me give you the TLDR first. The side-by-side use of an assistant in a document or in a code stream, that is much closer to the feeling of having a smart collaborator over your shoulder than having to do it all in the same stream, right? So in ChatGPT, you're basically having to go back and forth. This eliminates some of the back and forth, at least in your perception, because the back is over on the left-hand side where you're talking, and the fourth is happening over here in the actual document. So I left the session that I did last night, and by the way, I did it in the context of editing a poetic kind of document, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But I didn't do anything with code, which is where if you go online and you search about, what are people saying about Canvas, it's almost all coders who are using Canvas at this point to take advantage of the coding capabilities of OpenAI's advanced models. They're more accustomed to having a console and an editor at the same time. So I want to show you how this worked. Give me just a second to bring up the screen right here. Okay. So I have a very creative wife who's in the midst of, along with a human artist, building an oracle deck. And that oracle deck is, it's a number of cards. It has an image on one side, has a book associated with it. You pick a card, and it's going to provide some wisdom for you around, the mystical selection of that particular card for this whatever question you asked of the oracle or for your day's inspiration. So over here on the left is what appeared originally, but taking up the whole space. And over on the right is what happened once as Jyunmi was saying, the Canvas UI was triggered and it started using that right-hand panel you see over here on the right and making changes. So what I was doing was I gave it two examples of previously edited card texts for this. And, here's ChatGPT 4.0's response that, the text has a poetic, reflective, and evocative style, rich with imagery and metaphor, emphasizing themes of transformation, acceptance, natural cycles, and the divine feminine. Great. And it says, give me the second example, and I'll use these examples to guide my phrasing. So here's my first issue with it. When you have something that's acknowledged to be evocative, rich with imagery and metaphor, and you ask ChatGPT to make changes to it in the style, I found that its tendency was really to reduce the level of metaphor and imagery and just try to be clearer and more direct in the expressions. Over here on the right, you see now a section of this that I have pulled up because originally believing that you've seen in the demos of this product that it was highlighting in yellow the sections that it had changed. I wanted to have that kind of indication of what was changed over there on the actual document. And I had to struggle with ChatGPT to get it to do that. It actually comes down here later on in this thread where I'm giving it documentation and asking it to make changes. I have to talk to it at length to, make changes over here on the right in a way that I can see what's happening. So here's its first response, which is actually a very useful model of editing. It says, I'll go through and highlight the phrases or sentences that I modified to improve clarity. It didn't do that over here on the right at first. It instead gave me this format, which is, you see on the left, here's what the original phrasing was. Here's my edited phrasing. And so that allowed me to go through with the actual document in Canva and say, okay, well, I don't really love this edit. I'm not going to take that one. I like this part of this phrase of your edit. I'm going to include that over here. And that was very useful. But I really wanted to do that over here. So eventually I have a conversation down here, give it another set of card text, and I say, okay, please present the listing of your edits with original and edited versions of the text, or highlight your edits in the full document in the Canvas. And then it has a problem. I attempted to add comments to your document highlighting areas, but this caused the operation to fail. if you'd like, I can provide comments directly here as before. And I said, no, try again to present indication of edited text in the full text of the Canvas view. It says, okay, I've made the requested edits. And it did that by bolding those sections. And now I'm going to kind of skip to here where now we're kind of simultaneous. Here's where the edit assistant is saying things on the left, and it's also making changes on the right. But let me point out that it can make those changes and deliver them, but it can't make the changes as an editor, like where you might observe it making changes to this little section right here in real time on the document. Unless I'm mistaken, it would have to repeat the generation of that with the new modifications as you talk to it over here on the left. But that's for further discovery. Here's a nicety. One of the phrases that's used in this particular section is guided by the ethereal glow of the Sturgeon moon. That's the edit. The original wasn't phrased that way at all. But I wasn't familiar enough with the Sturgeon moon allusion that I wanted the AI assistant to tell me what it was about. And so it gives me this very nice explanation that, this was Native American tribes noting that they could catch more sturgeon during this period of the August moon, which is a very luminous moon. And so it became a term of parlance that the Sturgeon moon was a time that reflects abundance because of the rich haul of sturgeon that you can get. And it's connected to the natural world, as is much of the Native American sort of calling and history that we know. So I didn't like a lot of these edits over here that were placed in the highlights. And so I was picky and I choose those parts or those words that I thought were great. But again, overall, my total experience was, hey, this is really nice to have this quite excellent assistant making commentary and changes in a way that I can see it either in the actual chat stream or on the document itself. But I wasn't, in this particular case, editing the document on the right-hand side as you see it. Instead, I was editing the document in a separate window in Canva where I could make real final changes to that document.
So that's interesting because I had a different experience, but my document is not as long, and I'm gonna share my personal cheat. That is, when I'm hosting, I often generate a host script, so you're gonna see that in my Canva. But I can see it making the edits in line when I do that. So let me pull this up, and I should clarify that as Andy said, most of the people are using this are excited about using it for code. But I just want to show that, okay, so I'm particularly interested in hearing from Andy. So I'm going to just highlight this. I'm going to get this Ask ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, I'm going to say, make this Karl, who is here. Welcome, Karl. And so now I see it making the edit, right? So I'm particularly interested in hearing Karl from this. So I'm going to take that off. But Andy, was that not something that you were able to see when you were working with your document?
It wasn't. When I first started out, of course, the Canvas display on the right isn't there, right? That gets triggered automatically. And so I'm feeding it in the main chat stream the full card text and giving it instructions in that dialogue. Then it places that information post-edit in the right-hand screen. So then I was like befuddled a little bit. And it actually says, why wouldn't you be highlighting it in the actual screen on the right? Well, as a newbie to Canvas, yes, I didn't realize that I could actually trigger somehow by request the right-hand panel and then insert the text and then edit it collaboratively on the right. which is what you're demonstrating. No, I didn't, that didn't leap to mind, and I'm glad to see that you can do it that way. I will try that again as I'm actually doing this. This is real editing that I'm doing. And so I think I'm going to use Canva and Canvas together that way.
Yep. And I'm apparently using Canva and Canvas interchangeably. Canva is the other thing where you can make oracle cards like Andy's wife. And Canvas is the topic of today's show, which is a new feature from OpenAI.
And once again, I just have to repeat my irritation with OpenAI for using a term that is so similar to another major AI company that's in the space of editing, and that's Canva, which is really a big player out there with AI built into their editing of both imagery and text when you're creating something that's graphic art.
Great, thanks. And Karl, do you have you played with Canvas? Are you doing text or code?
I was building code because I was building a RAG through some of our clients and trying to apply the real-time API into it. So I thought, hey, why not just apply that and see what I ended up doing. I think I was using the sliders. I don't know if any of you were using the word sliders, but I was using the sliders, especially the on the coding side. What's I think that was kind of neat is it fixes the bugs. It has a fix bug button. So I would, highlight a section or just it would look for my errors. And I was testing like, hey, I was actually coding in like making errors to see if it would catch it. And it did a pretty decent job of it. So I do like the ability to change language from, because I was using Python and then switching it over to, I just want to see what it looked like in JavaScript, C++, like just see what it would do, and then switch it back to Python to see what it would, if the code that I initially put in is still the same. And so it's still a little off when I did that. So probably wouldn't do that again, especially if I'm working on something. So I think what I like about it is I can edit inside the piece, because I never liked OpenAI, like you have to keep asking it certain things and it would do, from a coding perspective, it may or may not do what you want it to specifically do. So if you wanted to take like more of a scalpel approach or really be fine-tuned, I just, I'm like, okay, I'd rather do this inside platform rather than outside. I think, when I was using it against Cursor, it's interesting experience. And I think all the feedback that we're providing it and all the things that we're doing inside it will make it a better and more useful tool overall. The question I had is Microsoft and Google's space, are they being threatened now? Because everything that we've done or all the major SaaS companies added AI to their solution. But kind of one of the first times here is we've seen AI adding productivity into its platform. So if I have advanced data analytics, I have essentially a word editor, and then I can create images. Don't I have the Office suite or the Google kind of workspace a little here and there? So I'm curious to see how far and how more, like what other features they'll add into it as people start using it more. I think the key thing is I saw my wife Andrea use it. She's like, oh, okay. And she was creating her own document and stuff. So from just a basic user, just seeing her, oh, I can edit inside it now. Cool. I want to do this. I think there's still a little bit of maybe, I don't know if it's confusion or what can I do on the left? What can I do inside? and then how do those two play along together? Because sometimes when you go left, it may change the entire document on the right. So you got to be very careful of what you're doing. That's what her experience was. She was like, oh, I want to do this. But then she was used to normal ChatGPT where she would ask something. She'd go, oh, crap, I didn't mean to do that. And then it would then recreate it. But I guess you can go back up and do it. But yeah, it's kind of it's just a different way to work. Although once she got it, once she started highlighting certain sections, it's like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now. And then ask ChatGPT for just that section for her. So I think I'll use it if I'm actually doing written documents. And for code, I'm not sure yet. I think I might still use Cursor. But we'll see. I haven't done enough of it, and I haven't even applied the code yet. I think what everyone was looking for is kind of an artifacts experience where the code actually runs. But I don't, that'll most likely, I think there's a bunch of posts that is going to be there sooner rather than later. So I have a feeling there'll be a run or execute button or slider or whatever function that you can execute the code and see it in real time and then, copy and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious to see but I think big picture wise, what does this mean for bringing productivity in? And can you do this from a Excel function? Could I do it that way too? That'll be really interesting then.
Yeah, my take was kind of similar to your wife's. It took a little while to figure out how I was going to work with it, and in fact, when you're in line and the little thing comes up that says "Ask ChatGPT," I want to click something to make it go away, right? And I'm not entirely sure where that's coming from, but there's that kind of learning curve that it's teaching you. Okay, you can do this in this way. Everybody's going to have that little bit of learning curve because we've been so used to creating through the chat interface on the left. But it is a little editing, doing live collaboration in a Google Doc with your super well-informed, smart friend, right? Who knows all the stuff. And doesn't get mad, right? No, I want you to do it again, 5 different ways, 5 times. There's no attitude coming to me from, you're wasting my time.
So I have a question. How does the feature, which was, I think, simultaneously announced, which is prompt caching, how does that fit here? Because I put 2 full card texts in there as examples. And as you saw, then ChatGPT did a nice analysis of that style and voice. And then it tried to use that going forward to maintain that voice as it made its suggested edits. Now I wanted, I left that session and I'm coming back. Prompt caching wouldn't forestall me having to then add further examples, kind of maintain those examples over there at the start of a new session with ChatGPT, right? It'll do prompt caching for a period of time, but my understanding is that I'm going to always have to, in this model, I don't have RAG, so I can't put in there a brand voice document that I can then have ChatGPT call upon in every subsequent editing session. Thoughts?
So Gwen is also saying the same kind of thing. So if it could maintain brand voice, now we're coming after Writer and Jasper and those kinds of pieces. And being able to maintain brand voice, right, can be prompt caching, can be a separate custom instructions kind of thing, sort of like a custom GPT, right? It's within the OpenAI ecosystem, there are ways that they do this that are not available with Canvas right now.
Yeah. I imagine it would be added as 2 custom GPTs. Like that's the next step I'm seeing is Canvas in custom GPTs, or Canvas becomes a activated feature of a custom GPT. And then you could add those documents, right? That would be part of the knowledge and things like that.
Hey, Andy, I think so. I'm on the prompt caching piece in the API docs, and I think now I don't know how it applies in ChatGPT itself, but from prompt caching to actually trigger, your prompt needs to be over 1,024 characters to start with. Then it starts the lookup. So, for me, the one thing that I started seeing was, for example, if you do have a RAG system, but your custom instruction is the same, it hasn't changed, and it's over 1,024 tokens, I think that then it caches that, whatever that custom instruction, because it's always going to read that instruction before answering whatever question is applied. So I think that could decrease, whether it's for you or for third parties, to see if that would decrease the cost itself too.
And that's super interesting. Because there are other companies. OpenAI is the last to add prompt caching, right, of the big ones, and I kind of feel like people aren't entirely sure how to use it, and they have, like, you can cache it for a certain amount of time, and then it clears that memory. The system prompt for Canvas has been leaked, has been found, and it points to a bunch of things, like memory isn't being used. Like, it points to it is basically instructing Canvas about the things that it can't do, right? Like, I don't want you to do these sorts of things. And that kind of points to, so memory is not being used for this. Bio is not being used for this, which implies that it could be, right? Like, when the document tells you explicitly don't do this because you might, that implies that there are additional features that could become part of this.
Do you remember, because I remember OpenAI's, I don't know, customer service person way back talking to us, and even I think in their prompting guide, they say, try to avoid using the negative, go always to the positive. So it's very interesting that they have included actually do not? I haven't even read that. Like, how they said, do not do this, or is it like in a way that says that, but not in the negative?
It says, literally, so the Canvas feature is referenced as can more.
Yeah.
In this, lean towards not using can more if the content can be effectively presented in the conversation. Creating content with can more can be unsettling for users as it changes the UI. And there are a bunch of places within this that are like, don't freak the user out.
Yeah.
You might freak the user out. So don't freak the user out. Which is also, like, it feels like OpenAI understanding to a certain extent why this could be a game changer, because it is interacting with something that is familiar, but just different enough that it sort of seems like, no, let users, like, tiptoe into interacting this way on their own time and don't force it on them, which I thought was really interesting as well, because that seems to be the big thing of this. The two most recent things that came out from OpenAI are really challenging the way we interact with like our UI in engaging with AI back and forth. This is a collaborative document, and the thing before this is real-time voice for everybody.
I want to ask everyone here,
real-time voice plus Canvas, so you just speak and anything that you want to create, right?
I'm there. Like, yes, thank you. Beta test me. I want that.
We've seen it though. We've seen some repos that in like there was one I've been really paying close attention. It's a Firecrawl one where you use voice to direct the browser. So the question I get the question I was trying to ask is, what other additional features do you think you're going to add into the Canvas ability? And eventually, don't you think that they would kind of merge the two? Because right now, like if you go into normal ChatGPT and you put / whatever, like what is it, code or whatever it is, if you go / picture search reason, it'll automatically kick in the reason or the search in the picture. So wouldn't it be like / canvas, and then you can kickstart whatever you want to use without having to actually go do it? And then it would be crazy because the voice would make, you can kind of connect the dots now. It's like, oh, you have all the ability, so now you just tie voice into it and be like, hey, I want to use reason, and then or I want to create a canvas, and then build me this code, and then, hey, draw me this picture or search me this thing. Because I saw a clip with Brad Lightcap, I think yesterday, saying Sam Altman said in a decade. Brad Lightcap said in a couple of years. In a couple of years, you're like, everything that you'll be interacting with, you can, essentially what he said is you can talk to. So to me, where they would build it in would be into this interface, wouldn't you? Like just what you just said, Beth, like custom GPTs. I hope for another show, hope it's not deprioritized, and then, picture, search, reason, and controlling everything both with your voice and with your keyboard and mouse if you have it.
Right. So
I want to make a point about the coding in this kind of a collaborative assistant model. I've been working in Replit Agent, which is a really great example of this, which has a much richer UI than Canvas does at this point in time. And it starts to lean toward this future that you're talking about, Karl, where you're going to have a more natural conversational interaction with the assistant. Right now, you have to type everything out. So that takes me some time to, try to be exact in my expression of what I wanted to do next and or how I can suggest to it to correct a problem that it's running into. I'd really like to instead be able to interrupt it and say, wait, what you're doing there is not what you need to be doing. And that's a feature that's not a lot of years away, because Replit's already demonstrating this multi-tab format. So I have console, I have the web view, I have a progress panel that'll tell me, what its main blocks of effort and its plan of action are. There's a very sophisticated UI there. And that leads to my final point, which is what we have experienced with Canvas is what other commentators have called the tooling around AI. So creating the tool set in the user interface that makes it easier to use the capacities of the LLM. So this is a UI advancement, Canvas is. So are many of the other tools like Artifacts and Replit Agent and so on. Those are adding the combination of an LLM and really smart user interface design for a specific purpose. And so this is not a breakthrough, oh, wow, this changes the whole game of using AI, but it is a major advancement, I think, in the OpenAI ecosystem that allows you to work collaboratively with the assistant in ways that weren't possible before with the straight back and forth dialogue of a chat.
That is totally true. And the UI, like the part of why that's significant is that was also the ChatGPT moment, right? What changed was the UI. Like the total function backend had been, had already been there for a while, and this was just a UI, and everybody went, "Oh wow, no, this is a familiar experience that I can get behind." And now, I mean, it is this right now. I'm chatting with my very informed, happy to talk at all times friend, right? And now we're collaboratively editing documents together. And Karl, yes, what's next? Now we're creating apps together. Now we're and maybe that's like when it's running, so like the app is live while you're editing it. Yeah, there's a ton. Does anybody have last minute comments?
My last thought, and more of a really fun future, would be, when we all talk about, oh, there's that AI assistant. It'd just be really neat when you were just saying Beth, about like multiple people, whether it's a team of developers or team of writers with the AI there, but not a participant where you're typing it, but actually people around the room asking it questions. So be like, hey, could you do this? Oh, okay. And it remembers the context of that 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever hour conversation as, oh, Jenny said this and Matt said this a while ago, but then you're talking about this. So do you kind of see where like that it becomes part of the collaborative group? And then at the end it'd be like, hey, ChatGPT, just take all the notes, summarize it. Can you transcribe it and send it to Tom over there, who is just gonna, or send out a recap email to all of us. Oh, no problems. And then away it goes. So it's kind of integrated as part of the team, and it's there for the entire team because it can hear, listen, and see on screen all the cool stuff. So I think that just kind of, when we talk about tooling,
that's the,
yeah.
I've heard this expression before long ago, which is moving from human in the loop to AI in the group.
Yes. Oh, that's, yeah.
And early on, Zakaria was asking about agents. Is it going to integrate with agents? And that is the agent integration, right? The AI in the group is very much. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us for this conversation. If you have been playing with Canvas and have something to add, please go ahead and pop it in the comments, either for this live or when it gets published afterwards. We'd love to hear your experiences. And we're here all week. So tomorrow is the news show. We're going to talk about what's dropped in the last 7 days. And what the news stories are that sometimes slip under the radar. We always have a little something. We like to try to surprise each other for things that others haven't seen yet. Thursday, we're talking about Perplexity's API, and is it killing custom GPTs? And Friday, we're going to do a deep dive on Notebook LM and business use cases. So I hope you come back, and thanks. Have a great day.
Aloha.